Hey, welcome everyone to week 3 of our Automation Anywhere Bot Camp. I'm super excited to be back with everyone. Super excited to be back with Kate. We did take last week off, and that gave people the opportunity to catch up and do some of the exercises they may have missed. But this week, Kate, what was our topic?
It was putting it all together and creating our first project.
That's right. So we created our first project. We also learned a bit about nesting, and we talked about using selection and repetition together, and technically sequences involved there too. But we built a full project, and then we did that mini project where we were just doing some basic stuff with looping. So hopefully you were able to build both of those exercises. Kate, I want to hear from you. Were you able to get through it? What were some of the aha moments, some things that tripped you up?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to shake my computer there. I was able to get through it. I had a couple hiccups. They were self-induced problems. And I'll go to those in a minute. The first thing that I thought was super helpful was how to use steps to organize. Organize your automations.
Yep.
That for somebody that's coming not from automation and a super technical background, that helps it, in my opinion, like create definition around what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why you're doing it. So I really liked that. And then each of the steps, putting it together and actually seeing it do something was really great. Utilizing the browser package plus the recorder, like that was a big aha moment for me. Wow, there's like so much we can do once we put those things to work. And then, okay, so the mistakes I made, not necessarily mistakes. Well, one is, but lesson learned, having way too many tabs and browsers open makes things way confusing.
Yep.
So close the browsers, close the tabs. So that way, when you are searching for what you need to record, it's way clearer. That slowed me down a lot. Kept selecting the wrong thing. And then I maybe got a little arrogant and tried to go too fast a few times and clearly didn't know exactly what I was doing. So I had to stop and go back, which is fine. It's a lesson, to learn.
Yep.
But hopefully I will be able to actually go the speed that I want to go in the future.
That's great. So I like that. The steps, I think, are hugely important to being able to kind of map out where you want to go. A lot of us can think of things from like a process lens. And so if we can at least get that far, then we can map out those steps to then go back and build the automation that matches those. So I think that's huge. And I think to the other point you mentioned, like it's really exciting to actually see these automations run, right? Like once you've built something and it actually logs into this website and it starts to read some data and it creates this spreadsheet, it's pretty cool to see all of that stuff together. And it really starts to spark some imagination on some different things that you could build. So for you, what things were sparked in your imagination as areas where you could potentially apply this?
Yep. I actually am going to carve out some time in the next 48 hours, I would say, to...
You kind of just said this publicly, so we're going to expect something.
I know. Next week's video, guys.
Yeah.
So many of you likely are in the same boat as me, where you have ordered a whole lot of holiday presents, and your email inbox has a ton of shipping notifications. Well, I've gotten some that are like, oh, your package is delivered, but it hasn't been. So I would like to set up some sort of report that is pulling all of the tracking information and statuses together in Excel or some format that's really easy, because my email inbox is not the easiest to navigate to find this when I want to find it.
That's great. Yeah, and you could stack that together with keeping track of what you've gotten for each person and some other stuff like that. So I think that's a cool project. It's also very timely for the season of Christmas and holidays. So I think that's a very cool idea for a project, and I think something you should totally be able to build after going through all this training. So I think that's a great idea. A lot of people get the idea of like, hey, there's these things that I do every day with an Excel spreadsheet. How can I automate some more of that?
Mhm.
And as we've gone through some basics of working with Excel, and we're going to get into more of that next week, I think those are also great opportunities for people to start to explore things that they can automate.
Totally agree.
Cool.
It's lots of light bulbs going off, I feel like, all the time.
That's great. Well, Kate, as always, I sincerely appreciate you sharing your perspectives of what you're learning. If you didn't see it already, Kate has a great video on LinkedIn of her perspectives of what she was learning this week and some of the struggles. So I thought that was excellent. I appreciate Kate documenting that. It's like the real world testimonial of someone going through this content. So follow her and check that out on LinkedIn. It's Catherine Wrestler though, not Kate. So I messed that up when I tried to comment. It didn't
It's
autofill.
okay. I have gone
Okay.
by so many names. I went with my full formal one for LinkedIn.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kate. I want to
Yep.
transition now to our mystery guest for week 3. Drum roll, please. None other than the Mark Goodair.
Nice
That
to be
guy.
here. How's it going, Micah?
Mark, 2 things real quick. Number 1, if anyone who has joined and they want to ask questions about this week's content or any questions about building automations, please make sure to ask those. In the meantime, Mark, please do a brief intro for who you are and an introduction for people who may not be familiar with your body of work yet.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah. Happy to be here. I think this is absolutely fantastic. Behind the scenes, we've been collaborating a lot and just love this initiative. So Mark Goodair, I've been with Automation Anywhere around 5 years. I spent a few years with our professional services group, traveling around and helping customers scale their automation programs. And then the last around 2 years, I've been leading our internal center of excellence to basically drink our own champagne and see automation go throughout our own company to automate our processes, which is I mean, it was already awesome, and then obviously with everything recent with things like generative AI, it's kind of gone to the next level. It's been a really interesting journey.
Very cool. So yeah, Mark and I have worked quite a bit behind the scenes around everything from Pathfinder to now working on some of this citizen developer and learning content. Mark, I know that beyond just people who have been going through our bot camp, we have a lot of automation leads who join these sessions just to kind of see what this is all about and understand what we're telling their teams. So I want to kind of throw to you here because you're living this right now, and I did this previously. But give me some information about like what's the expectation for someone who's going through this training, and what should we expect from them coming out on the tail end of this next week and then into bot games?
I think that's awesome. I guess the first thing that pops into my head is, we've been exposed through all this training to kind of the art of the possible, what's possible in the platform. I think there's something huge to be said for taking something that's really unknown. What does this thing do? What's it really capable of? I hear all the buzz, but what does it actually do? And when you start to shine the light on it in some really practical ways, like we've been able to do through this camp, I think that's the first thing, is just that familiarity with this is the kind of thing that's possible. People are getting to see kind of under the hood of an automation. I think that would be the first thing. Hopefully it's been demystified a bit. The second thing I think would be, hopefully, dots are being connected. When you go through the exercises, Kate just gave a great example, but when you go through the exercises, hopefully, those connections are being made to say, hey, that's the same kind of problem I've got over here in my personal life, like planning gifts, or in my business function, in my organization. Hey, we have a very similar thing. That's one of the most interesting things in automation I find, Micah. You and I have had this conversation lots of times, is that there are definitely, there's patterns. And often when we're solving one problem, the light can go off and say, that's really the same problem, called something different, but it's the same problem over here. I can apply that same concept. And I guess the third thing that comes to mind would be confidence. Hopefully that's something that's come out of anyone that's participated in this, is that you've got the ability, you say to yourself, I can do this. I can build some basic automations. I understand the basic building blocks, and hopefully you're inspired to take some next steps in that direction. It really is every big journey begins with a few solid steps, And I think this has been an awesome kind of initiation of what can be a really, really interesting journey that unlocks more and more value and also just interesting work.
Yeah, no, and I think you nailed that completely. This is really designed to be a jumping off point. We want people to get a taste for what it means to be able to create automations, what it means for automations to be able to execute. I know that not every single person coming out of this is going to be creating automations
Right.
full time in the future, right? Just being realistic, that's probably not going to happen. But what I think will happen is people have a general idea of what Automation Anywhere can do, where might be some good places that it could be applied. I think especially as you start to, like you said, demystify what an automation actually is and what is it when I'm running a bot, seeing that actually run, seeing it on your computer, manipulating things, opening up web applications and starting to save files, right? Like that starts to really spark some interest. So I thought that was really very astute point by you. I want to address a couple questions we just got. First, I want to learn Automation Anywhere. Suggest where I can learn. Well, this bot camp is a great way to get started. I would also suggest heading over to pathfinder.automationanywhere.com. We can put that link in the chat here. We've got a great jumping off point there with our Pathfinder Academy content / AAU content. So that would be a great place to start. Automation Anywhere University is also a great place to start. And to clarify things here, a lot of this content is actually in both of those places. So we're working on merging that and bringing it together. We did a special bot camp as a way to introduce people to this content in a fun multi-week approach. But this content will live on AAU and will be able to be available for self-consumption later on. One other question we got from Leo. It says, I have a colleague that wasn't able to start bot camp when it started. She'd like to start now. When I passed along the email to sign up, the link was broken. Ruh-roh. Is there a new link where she can sign up and review past sessions? So, Leo, we will fix whatever link it is. If you can put that in the chat, that would be really helpful so we can know exactly what may be going on there. But the idea with all of this bot camp is that we're doing this in a way that people can consume this on demand later on. So, yeah, we're doing it live here. And if people are able to keep up with this pace and do the 4 weeks all together, that is awesome. If they are not able to, we want this to all be available on demand. These live sessions are recorded. We will be sharing those on our YouTube. And so they'll be able to go through that if they want to see some of the Q&A and some of the behind the scenes of how this stuff fits together. But this is designed so that people can take this on demand. And Leo, if you're an automation leader, we want this to be something that you can take a cohort of people through at your organization later on so that, hey, probably not January 1st, but February 1st, we're going to get started taking a group through this 4-week program. And you don't have to have the Micah part of it. You can have the Leo part that leads the live meeting every week to answer questions and help people out. So this is designed to be something that customers can take and run with and make their own. Mark, speaking of automation leaders, if someone like Leo has someone from their team going through this, what are some realistic expectations? What can Leo expect of this individual who's gone through the 4-week training from an automation leader perspective? What are my results? What are the things that I'm looking for?
Yeah, I think Micah, the one of the big ones is just inspiration. I think anyone that's gone through this is going to be inspired. Hopefully they're going to be able to connect it to their daily work and see how automation can help them. And like we were talking about before we address those questions, I think the confidence building is a really, really big one as well. So hopefully they feel confident to be able to this, that you can do this and you can actually participate in driving automation in your organization.
One of the things that I know we touched on quite a bit for automation leaders as they go through our Pathfinder content, which is all about scaling and driving automation programs, is the 4 C's of user engagement. Talk to me a little bit about these 4 C's and how that applies to people who may be coming out of this bot camp and training.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really important concept, hence it being part of Pathfinder, Micah. I think the key message here is that everyone's got a role, everyone's got a place in driving automation within your organization. That's really, really important. You know, you just mentioned a few minutes ago, Micah, that we don't believe that every person necessarily is going to actually build automation. That might not be realistic for every person. We got lots of different people with different competencies and experiences. So the 4 C's really start with contribution, and that basically says that a great idea can come from anyone and anywhere. So one thing would just be, you know, I've got an idea. What if we were to automate this, right? So being able to contribute ideas.
In this case, are you building it though?
So maybe you're not building it. Maybe somebody else is going to build it. Maybe I say, Micah, I think we should automate this process, and you run with that. But the idea had to come from someone. So at least I initiated the idea. Right. And that kind of leads into the second one. So, creating automations, of course, that's been, one of the focuses of this camp. Actually creating automations obviously is really, really, really valuable. Another one is consuming automations, consuming just being another word for using automation. Even if you don't have tons of ideas, even if you're not actively building automations, but if you kind of take that to heart to say that, I want to be as productive as possible in my work. I want to do my work in the best way possible, and that's going to involve automation. And I actually kind of incorporate that into my work. That's also really, really valuable. So kind of consuming automation, and then the fourth one being championing processes. So a lot of organizations like ours, we talk about SMEs or process owners, but if you're the kind of person that's considered a bit of an expert on a certain area of business processes, then you can advocate for automation in those areas. You can be helping to define what those automations would look like, and help advocate for automation in that specific area.
That's great. And I like that idea, because if I'm an automation leader and some people in my organization have gone through this bot camp,
yes,
I don't want to expect that all of them are necessarily going to be rock star building automations, crushing it out of the gate right away, right?
Right.
There are different ways that they can contribute to the efforts of our automation program. And sometimes it just means like, look, I know what Automation Anywhere is now. I'm really happy to use this stuff. I have some cool ideas for it, but I don't want to build it, right? That's totally fine. That person's been turned on. They know what kind of stuff it makes for a good use case. They can be a good advocate for your program.
100%. And these things all, as you know, Micah, the stuff all connects together. So, thanks to what we've been going through in this camp, people have been exposed to what's possible. I find in my experience, it's very difficult to request people to come up with automation ideas if they don't have any sense of what's possible. Right. But when you start, getting your feet wet, whatever the analogy is, when you start actually experiencing the technology and seeing what it can do, when you see a few demos of automations that have been built, that often is where the ideas come from. So you can think of it in order to become a great contributor of ideas, often having a bit of experience on the creation front is a really big asset.
Love it. Mark, I want to get to some of the questions we have here. Kaylee mentions one, any tips for downloading the bot runner? I tried on multiple computers, including a Mac, but it didn't work on any of them. Kaylee, I would suggest posting the issue that you're getting on our community forum. If you go to community.automationanywhere.com, that's going to be the best place for someone to be able to help you out and figure out what the issue may be, especially if you can share a screenshot of a particular error you're getting or something like that. We can help you out. The bot runner is only for Windows devices. So if you're using a Mac, not to get too complicated here, but you would need to use some virtualization software like Parallels in order to do that. It's easiest if you're just getting started to do this on a Windows machine. So if you're getting an error, please post that in our community forum. It's community.automationanywhere.com. Allison, if you can help with a specific link to the bot camp where we've been posting those questions, that would help out as well. Mark, I want to ask this one of you. This came from Emmanuel. Can we discuss some of the job roles and opportunities for automation engineers?
That's a great question, and also probably close to my heart. So I think that there's different important roles within a center of excellence. I think if I was to speak a little bit about how we've structured it and how we generally recommend this work, Micah, I think that there's automation engineers can come earlier in the process and help assess ideas. So whether some people would call that a business analyst or a solution architect, but somebody's got to analyze incoming ideas and take them through some basic assessments to say, for example, is this actually feasible? What's the potential business value? What's the process going to look like? So an automation engineer can move upfront in the process. We call that like an intake analyst. An automation engineer themselves can grow into more and more areas technically and on the solutioning, and in terms of understanding the product, they can move into things like being an automation architect, which generally has a greater breadth. They're able to automate different areas of the business using the full extent of our product, incorporating things like generative AI and document automation and these pieces. There's really, really important pieces of any automation program that are involved in things like evangelizing. How do we promote the automations that are happening within a program? Automation engineers can branch into that if they're the kind of person that likes to be kind of the poster boy or poster girl of the automation program and help promote automation within the organization. There can be roles like that as well. So I think there's both what we call technical roles and non-technical, but all in the spirit of boosting the automation program.
Yeah, one of the things that I often recommend is that you don't necessarily have to get a new job to be effective with automation too, right? Like if you're already in a business-facing role or you're in an operations style role and you can learn automation and you can implement it in that area, that enables you to be a lot more effective at your specific role without necessarily having to say, well, I did this training, I updated my resume, now I have to go apply someplace. Like figure out how you can apply this to what you're doing already. And that will give you demonstrated experience that when you do come time to wanting to try a new role or something like that, you've already got it.
I think that's a really, really important point. Like is if you've got a business role in some business unit. So if we were to speak from an Automation Anywhere perspective, for example, we've got really, really sharp automation professionals in our HR department. We call people experience. In our customer support group, our customer support group is winning awards. If you look on LinkedIn, one of the reasons they're winning awards is because people within that customer support or customer success organization are coming up with amazing automation ideas that are helping them be more efficient and more effective in their jobs. So that's very, very true. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't stay within your individual business unit. It's like another tool that you're adding to your arsenal of being more effective is we can also incorporate automation into our work to make this business function more effective.
Excellent. All right. There was another question on what programming language we'll be working with in Automation Anywhere. I would say to build basic automations, you actually are not using a specific programming language. You are using the fundamentals of programming, which include the topics we've introduced here of sequence, selection, repetition, error handling, variables, things like that. So you will be using that. If you want to branch out and get into more of a specialty or add specifics to your automations from there, you can look at doing things like Python scripting. You can do JavaScript. You can do JavaScript injection. You can do Java and create custom packages. You can do .NET DLLs. You can do VB script. Am I missing any, Mark?
No, I was just going to say, and add to that the whole generative AI ecosystem as well. So that's one nice thing about our platform is it's really agnostic to those technologies. You can kind of plug them in lots of different ways.
Yeah, and then you can also get into stuff like SQL, right? Like not necessarily a programming language, but something you'll want to learn if you start to interface with a lot of databases. All right, last question. Thanks so much for the effort put into the bot camp. I wanted to make sure we read that part. Really enjoying it. Read that too. Will there be any other learning experiences as a progression from this camp? So great question. And great lead in to what we're going to be doing, not next week, but the week after. So next week is our 4th week of Bot Camp. It is the last week of Bot Camp. And we'll be going over some very package-specific courses next week. You'll be hands-on again. The week after that, which I think is December 11th, if I check real quick. Pretty sure it's the 11th. Yeah, December 11th, we'll start Bot Games. And Bot Games is designed for those participants who have been taking part in our Bot Camp to be able to apply what they've learned in solving a realistic problem. And what we've done is we've partnered with United Way of the Bay Area to create a special Bot Games Season of Giving Edition challenge. And with that, you'll be applying all the skills you learned in Bot Camp to be able to take this challenge, figure out how to solve the automation. It's going to give you some instant feedback when you create it to say, how long did it take for your automation to run? What was the accuracy, stuff like that, so that as you're building it, you can see if your automation is actually working or if you have some errors to address or things like that. For those that say, you know what, I love it, I'm eating all that up, I love the Bot Camp, I love bot games, from there, you can continue to progress in our Automation Anywhere career quest that we've designed for citizen developers, or transition to the Pro Developer Career Quest. And what that means is we have more of these courses followed by automation challenges that have been designed to teach you more and more about the specific packages and the specific functions of Automation Anywhere that we expect you to use as an Automation Anywhere developer. How many packages and actions are available on the enterprise version of A360? Mark, I'm going to kick that over to you. No, I did that because I know he doesn't know the specific answer. I think that last I saw, there's over 400 actions that are available. I don't know the specific number off the top of my head. Even when I was preparing some slides yesterday, I saw that there was like 12 new actions that have been added to the generative AI package in support of Amazon's generative AI capabilities. So that would be another one to take a look at. But yeah, we're continuously adding new packages and new actions, and those will release off core release as well. So that's a cool thing, is like you log in one day and there's some new capabilities that are available to you.
Yeah, and the one thing that's cool too, Micah, is that can be a double-edged sword, that we have so many packages and so many actions, but so that it doesn't seem intimidating, as probably people have seen through this training. There are a fair number of or a relatively small number, I'll say, of kind of go-to packages that that keep coming up. I'm sure you've addressed a number of those in this training. So a lot of those packages will be specialized for specific use cases, but there's a relatively small number of core ones that once you become competent, you use them all over the place. So that's helpful.
Question from Jeremy Fink. This will be the last one, and we'll hop over to some community shout outs in just a second. I've been working through the various exercises in the Pathfinder community as a reinforcement of the lessons. I was able to complete the message decoder exercise. However, I'm being told it is only 60% accurate. I tried a bunch of variations, but can't seem to improve my results. Though my bot does correctly decode the message, how can I figure out what the better way is? So, Jeremy, that particular exercise I'll need to take a look at. I wrote that about 4 years ago, and it uses a algorithm called the Levinthian distance to figure out the distance between the answer that you provided and the answer key that I wrote in the JavaScript on the back end. And so what it's looking for is to see that, is your translation of that text mostly correct? And I think I have it. If it's above 90% correct, we're just giving it to you as a win. If you want to try it, I think I did this on Bing Translate before. You could try Google Translate. I don't know why the translation of that text for some reason is changing, but the interpretation of that text to English is for some reason changed in the last 4 years. So try a different translator. I'll take a look at that one later, though. Appreciate the heads up, and we'll see if we can improve that. All right, Simon, I want to transition now to Allison, and we're going to be sharing our screen to talk about some of the community shout out. So Allison, welcome to Bot Camp. Thanks for joining us again. Let's do some community shout outs.
Yeah, sounds great. Hi, everyone. Allison Abel here, Pathfinder Community Director. Super excited to be here. Loving all of these questions. It's a perfect segue into the shout outs as well, and what I wanted to highlight today community-wise. So those that may not know, I do want to emphasize, we have a dedicated location for you to go that is packed full of experts ready to jump in and help you out and succeed in this bot camp. So please, please, please highly encourage you to utilize this space and ask those questions. Today, I want to shout out both, participants and our experts as well to highlight this. Caleb, thank you so much for jumping in and sharing your really thoughtful question. And Shand, one of our great MVPs, thank you so much for jumping in and providing a solution and helping Caleb move past this hurdle that he had. I also want to shout out Nun4934 for their great question. And also share my appreciation to Erin, who is on our team. Erin's been super, super active in our space, jumping in, helping out, and really, really do appreciate that. And while I have the moment, I do want to also shout out Max and John and Arjun, who have also been jumping in and sharing their expertise on our team as well. So please, please, please take advantage, utilize the space. Leo, to your question, the community also has toolkits, which have all of the information from the past few weeks that I recommend checking out and sharing. Appreciate you also flagging the need to have better links to our previous sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and build a playlist from our last few LinkedIn live sessions as well, and make sure that gets into the community. And Kaylee, looking forward to your question as well. And Jeremy, once Micah has a minute to process your question, we'll be sure to get a response in the community as well. So thank you everyone for jumping in, joining in, and please don't forget this great resource. Back to you, Micah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those shout outs. And thank you for everyone who is participating in those forums. Like we mentioned earlier, and like Allison mentioned, please make sure you go to those forums, check out the questions there. If you are getting stuck and you need some help, we want to help you out. So please post your questions there, use a screenshot, give as much information as possible. Myself, the rest of the team that Allison mentioned, or even people from our community are answering these. All right, we've got some more questions coming up. Where can I get use cases to practice? So if you go to community.automationanywhere.com and you look along the top, I have to check real quick to tell you the exact text of what this says. If you look along the top and go to
Guides is going to be the place you want to go.
I should have just had you answer that from the start.
No, that's okay.
Guides. Yeah, guides and then developer challenges is where you want to look. And we have a whole collection of previous bot games challenges. And so that's a great way for you to have some use cases to practice with. It's a great way to get hands-on. You get that immediate feedback of how long did it take? What was my accuracy? There's some weird challenges there. There's some hard challenges there. There's some easy ones. We have stacked them in order of difficulty. And as you go through that list, you will learn a variety of skills from the basics of web scraping to interfacing with files, interfacing with Windows thick client applications, making API calls, working with the database, pagination, all that kind of stuff. There's some really tough ones. So go through that. That would be a great place to get started. Another question, what are the roles in automation testing? Simon, let's switch back with Mark. I want to have Mark give a chance to chime in on some of these. I'm not dodging questions. Allison, thanks so much for joining. Mark, I want to get your opinion on this. I'll share some perspective as well. But what are some of the roles in automation testing?
Yeah, I think like any technology or like any solution, testing is really, really critical. I think one of those would be the test planning and the test scenarios. So somebody's got to define, for this automation, this is what we expect it to do. And we could talk about positive and negative testing here. But somebody's basically got to come up with that strategy and what are the scenarios that need to be tested. Some organizations, in particular large organizations, have somebody that's kind of a QA expert kind of across the board for the automation program. But at a minimum, you need somebody that's close enough to the process to understand this is what the automation is supposed to do and not supposed to do, that can define and ensure that the automation is performing according to its requirements.
Yep, I think that's great. The other thing I'll throw back to is something we mentioned earlier, that if I'm learning automation, what roles are available to me? Working in QA is a great place to learn and apply automation. And so if you're working in QA of other applications, you can build automations using Automation Anywhere to actually, do your test cases for that other application, whether it's a web front end or a thick client application, even an API. you could be writing those test cases and then running them in Automation Anywhere. And that's a great way for you to learn a new tool so that if you want to pivot to a slightly different role in the future, you've already got good experience in being able to create these automations.
True.
All right. Any opportunities to get a coupon for A360 training certificate? So all the training in Automation Anywhere University, the newer training that we're creating is free. So you have that available to you. You're welcome to try out all of that training. We don't have any certificates that we're giving out right now for certification. We will be updating the certification process at some point next year. But as of right now, there are no certificates for taking the certification. All right. With that, I want to thank all of our guests from this week, Mark, Allison, Kate. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your contributions. Thanks everyone for your participation in our community. We appreciate you going through this bot camp. This has been a ton of fun for us. This is kind of a pilot of a new type of learning event that we wanted to try out. And so I appreciate all of you being a part of it. Like I said, you can take all of this on demand. You can take this later. This is designed to be consumed at your leisure. So please make sure and do that, even if you have missed some of the previous weeks. On Monday, we'll be sending out our week 4 content list. And then the following Thursday will be our last Bot Camp live stream. So look forward to that. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Go be great.